Hi, I'm Chetna, and this is my story. I so this is the biggest particle detector, the heaviest particle detector in the world, CMS detector, and I'm in the education communications outreach team at CERN, and I'm specifically working in the social media team. So lots of time you see these pictures, amazing pictures, the life of social media, but the life behind it, 90% of the time, it looks like a blank screen. The picture on the bottom right, that's my life 90% of the times. And then there are some exciting moments. So I'll talk more about it uh, in a couple of slides. But before that, I want to rewind and tell you how I ended up at CERN, what was my career path so far. And yes, and yeah, second. Okay, so I think everyone has a year of change in their lives. For me, that was 2017. I'm from India, Delhi, and this year of change for me was 2017. I came to Germany in 2016, and I started studying in the university in 2017. That was the same year when India became the associate state member of CERN. So before 2017, CERN wasn't a dream I could have. It was only when I started my studies in Germany, and in the same year, by chance, India became an associate state member. So it was a matter of luck, fate, everything coming from a completely different side of the world. This is a Google screenshot. So obviously I did not walk 1,000 hours to Germany, but very small town, Kleve. It was quite different. Um, yeah, so let's see. Indian Institute of Technology. So I want to tell about my background, but before that, my family background. So like many Indian students aspiring for careers in STEM, engineering, lots of students apply for Indian Institute of Technology, IIT, which is a technical university, branches of technical universities in India. And I was one of them. I was a science student, and my family background is that both my parents are IIT graduates, and my grandfather is a professor. So my family was full of professors and engineers. And you would think that that created a pressure in my life, that maybe they pushed me to study engineering or pushed me to study science. But actually, it was the opposite. So because they they said that I should. My heart was in communications. I liked in school to study social science. My favorite subjects were history, but my favorite subject was also physics. So it was like a jack of all trades, a different interest, different disciplines. And that's why my family pushed me to study other fields, not engineering. And that had a rebellious effect on my nature. I thought, why is my father not encouraging me to study engineering? Why is he not promoting me to go for STEM like they are? And coming to Germany was a rebellious move. It was a rebellious move that, yes, I got admission in this university and I am capable of doing engineering. I can do physics. But at that time, it was a rebellious move, maybe as a woman or just as a confused kid, not knowing what to do in the life. And yeah, I ended up somehow in a completely different country, completely different continent, and not English speaking mostly. So this is me in the first year after completing my schooling, which is like German Abitur. So I could study in a university, and that's my graduation from the school. So that's my certificate after 1 year of studying physics, German language, chemistry, maths, but in German education system. And my plan was to study mechanical engineering. So that's the first degree I registered for when I came to Germany. Um, my bachelor's degree chose me, but again, as fate would allow it, I did not end up studying mechanical engineering. And it was difficult because I'm an international student. And those of you who haven't heard of German bureaucracy, it's a big thing. So we love forms, and it's important, but it's restricting for people who are coming with restricted admissions. So after 1 year of my schooling in Germany, I realized that I like physics. I like to talk about physics. I'm passionate about it, but not enough to study mechanical engineering or electrical engineering. So I had to see what I can do because I'm an international student with restricted admission. So I could only study STEM subjects. And I was told in my university that I could um, study engineering for a semester and then change to any other program I want to do. But that meant 6 months of studying something that I don't want to. And 6 months mean lots of financial burden, which was something I couldn't afford. So I looked through and I came across one specific, very unique degree called Science Communication and Bionics. It was, I'm going to talk more about it, but it's a mix of science communication, which is social sciences and science, and bionics, which is not exactly engineering, but it's a mix of biology and physics. So, yeah. And that was in the faculty of engineering. So that was one course, which was a bit related to communications. And I could change. I talked to my professors. I directly went to the professors of that degree program. And the university had said, we can't give you admission in a different program because you are coming from a restricted admission. But my professors were very kind. They helped me delete my application for 1 year, and they made a new application for me. And they said, welcome to our degree program. That sounds like a very simple thing to do, delete an application, make a new application, but it was a big deal. It was a life-changing moment for me that I could actually study something I want to in a different place. My parents supported me through this phase, even though they told me so, that my passion belonged in both sciences and communications. Uh, I saw it myself, I made mistakes, and I got to try. And yeah, at the bottom right, you see Astronomy Club. I just want to mention it because I love the logo, which is inspired by a very ancient crane located in the west part of Germany. And this crane is like an inspiration of a massive telescope. Um, so I was also a big part of the astronomy club in my university. That's how I started science communication in astronomy from university. Okay, so what's science communication? This is the question I face everywhere. And I use this like sometimes I meet physicists, so I say I'm a bionicist. And if I meet someone who is a journalist, I say I'm a science communicator. And I use this interchangeably. But I'll start step by step what's science communication. And it's not really possible to define this in one slide, but I like to define it as a place where science and social science meet, exactly like my confused mind who could not decide engineering, science, journalism, social science. Um, so what I studied basically in this program was a mix of journalism, science writing, public relations, which is a big part of what I'm doing right now at CERN in institutions, scientific organizations, political side of science, which is a big deal coming up now with climate change policies and, for example, European Union, Brussels, lots of science lobbyism is required. But I want to ask you guys some ideas of like some examples from real life, some jobs, some career ideas where you think science and social science meet. Like you can unmute or you can write it in the chat, some ideas where you think we need science, but also social science. Yeah, any suggestions? No, I see some chats. No idea. Yeah, it's a difficult one. It's okay if you don't have an idea. Science museum curator. Ah, yeah, that's one place where you need to know enough about science, but also be passionate about different fields like communication. I'm just reading the chat. Yes, sure, please.
Ma'am, I'm not very sure about it, but I believe that in particle physics as well, scientific communication is important since until and unless we being layman means even I got inspired by simple facts and stuff, and then I got into means got aware about some. Until before then, I wasn't even aware of particle physics and plasma physics, and now I'm so much into.
Yeah, no, that's thank you for mentioning that. Um, so I'll go on the next slide and then you'll see some examples. So Bionics, that's another part of my studies. Even this is not a very strict science, it's an interdisciplinary science field where lots of science fields are required, just like science communication, where lots of disciplines are required. And Bionics in English is slightly different from Bionic in German. The German Bionics has a slightly broader meaning, and it's a mix of bio inspiration and English Bionics. So, for example, you see engineering models inspired by nature. That's essentially bio inspiration. And nature has figured it out. We're just trying to learn now. But in nature, if you see, we have lots of efficient examples. For example, a butterfly, wings of a butterfly. So if we see solar panels inspired from wings of a butterfly, if we create pores on a solar panel, or if they are lightweight, it was seen that it's 33% more efficient in absorbing sunlight. So this is a very small example. And just like that, sunflower already moves with the sun rays, the direction of sun rays. And same way, if we create a solar tracker in solar panels that can move with the direction of sun, it will boost efficiency. And this was one of my projects in my university. And I was very excited to see that in Switzerland, I actually got to see it in person in real life. And it's not just something in books. And this is called a smart flower inspired by a sunflower, but works like a solar panel. On the right, you can see ships inspired by shark skin, and that was found to be very useful in drag reduction. Same like in aeroplane, inspired from birds, streamlining. So these are the things that I studied, bio inspiration. And then there comes the English version of Bionics. And this is one example on the top, which is called BCI systems. It's brain computing interface. And this is an experiment going on where we train brain signals people can see on the computer, and it's fluctuating. So it's brain signal simulations, and it's useful for training people without audio or sight, people who are blind, but also people who are disabled. With training brain signals, we can actually help them see. We can actually help them restore their movement. And lots of research is going on in that. I was very fortunate to be a student assistant in this field. So, for but these are some projects like brain computing interface, which is not very easy to communicate to people. You need to gain trust. You need to be simple but also accurate, and that takes skills. And that's what's taught in science communication: how to gain trust, but also communicate science in a way that's authentic. So yeah, and this is one example. For example, with AI, you need software engineers, but you also need ethicists who can tell you where are the limits. Yeah, so these are some examples where science and social science meet. Every step led me to CERN. So making mistakes, which I don't want to call mistakes, they were steps that helped me learn. So my 1 year of studying for preparing for mechanical engineering actually gave me a physics background, a physics flavor, enough to pursue it as a not as a physicist, but in a similar field.
Hello.
Hello. Um, I can't see. Let's see here.
एक लड़
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Yeah.
I had to mute everybody quickly because we had some loud background noise, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Yes. Yeah, so here you see the antimatter factory. And right now, during the pandemic, we don't have visits for outsiders anymore. So it's my job at CERN is to bring CERN to other people. So I'm gonna tell more in the next slides. But before that, I want to ask you guys a question, two questions. And would be great, Cornelia, if you can create the poll right now. I just want to know.
Poll is launched, yes.
Yeah, I want to know what you guys think of these questions. Yeah, so the first question is, how many of you are at least on one social media? WhatsApp counts. Second one, how many of you like using social media?
Almost everybody has voted, so I think we can
Yeah.
end the poll and share the results so everybody can see
Okay,
what's
sure.
happened.
Interesting. So 95% of you guys are on social media. And how many of you actually like using it? Yes, 49%, 39% sort of, which is the second majority, and 12% no. So I would say it's mixed reviews, but more than half of you are on social media. So that means the audience is large. The scope of reaching people is huge on social media, but we have mixed opinions on the usage of social media. Yeah, nice. So social media is diverse in terms of content, in terms of usage. Um, it could be WhatsApp, which is just for messages. It could be YouTube for watching videos. So I want to specifically talk about what it means for science, how we could use social media for reaching a larger audience. Next. Okay. For example, on the right-hand side, you see a screenshot from CERN's Instagram. And from a very myopic point of view, it looks like pretty pictures and highlights. But actually, every picture tells a story, and it's very concise, just a caption, and it takes you in an incident. It's like if you are passing in a corridor, some scientist meets you and tells you a story, but that becomes a social media post for us. Um, Similarly, in the highlights, you can see if you click on it, you can actually, it's like a virtual tour of an experiment. So you can actually unleash what's inside a large scientific laboratory if we use social media to its full power. Okay. Yeah. So I guess right now during the pandemic, I can't emphasize more how social media has proved to be important. For example, we are not conducting visits right now for people. So we have started doing live sessions from, for example, here, the LHC tunnel, and there was a new experiment that was recently set up called the phaser experiment to look for neutrinos. And it could be changed as per the difficulty. So you can go from memes and enticing people who are maybe not science inspired. So lots of communication is already done for people who know about particle physics. But social media is one place where you can see maybe someone is not interested in science at all. And this post reaches that person. Maybe it's funny. And then that person tries to find out more. So it's a good way of reaching also people who are not inspired by science. But then on the other hand, for example, the second picture you see is a screenshot from Twitter, social media post. And it's a very specific graph showing the launch of the beam, the proton beam in the SPS detector at CERN. And that's very interesting for scientists and physicists, community. So there are lots of levels of dissemination for social media, and every platform could be made used according to that. Yeah, so this is one last example that I would like to give that we did recently. This was in October last year, Dark Matter Day. And this is a good example of how you can use digital communication amongst scientists and people. Because most of the times people ask me, how can you communicate science in a basic way, something so complex to people? And I tell them that honestly, communicating about communications to scientists is also not an easy task. It's equally challenging and probably less studied in social science research. So this, it's 50-50. This was Dark Matter Day, and we decided to ask people to record questions. and send us videos, maybe 15 seconds or 30 seconds, which is like length of 1 or 2 Instagram stories. And we asked scientists to do the same thing by recording answers in videos. And those videos could obviously be longer than 30 seconds. And it became like a series of stories. And to our surprise, we got really, really interesting, curious questions. So I'm just going to read out some questions. And this just tells you the scientific curiosity amongst people who maybe know little about particle physics. Like the questions are, what happens when dark matter mixes with human blood or brain neurons? Is it possible that the pull of gravity that we associate with dark matter is actually the pull of gravity from other universes, if multiverse is real? And then there are some generic questions which also tell you the life of scientists. How do you stay motivated to find dark matter? That's a great question because it's difficult. We dark matter doesn't influence normal matter, and we study it. How do we stay motivated to study it for years and years? So questions like these tell us the faces of science, the stories of science. And during the pandemic, it's a great way of connecting online. Yeah. And once when we asked people the stats, how many of you would actually like to know, have some such Q&As for other CERN research, about 88% people said they want more such interactions. So it's true that misinformation, trolls, these things occur on social media. And that's why I feel information needs to travel faster. People in the scientific community, scientific organizations, we need to be more proactive in providing that information so that we can beat misinformation. And yes, this was a great example for introducing digital public engagement during the pandemic via social media. Yeah, so that's all from my side. And yeah, really. And this, if someone has some questions throughout the slides, something you want to ask me, you can ask.